JMeter is mainly used for performance testing and load testing. We can put load by adding number of users, and we can increase number of users by creating threads. In JMeter, the thread group represents the number of users for the request. We can test the performance of any application if we put the load of real users, and using thread groups in JMeter, we can simulate the number of users for testing purpose. A thread group is the first step to create test script, because at first step you will define for how many users you want to run your script, means how much load you want and for how many users you want to perform same scenario. And here one thread means one user. When you right click on test plan, click on add, we have first element as threads users, and under this we have four options: open model thread group, setup thread group, and tear down thread group. So this video we will talk about thread group. One test plan can have multiple thread groups. Here if you see, run thread groups consecutively, that is one at a time. You can use this option if you have multiple thread groups in your test plan. The elements that you will create in individual thread group will be applied to that thread group only. But if you create elements in test plan directly, then those elements will be shared between all thread groups. Like controllers, samplers will be created under thread group, but listener you can create in the test plan directly, because listener is used for the test results, and all thread groups are the part of that test plan, so that listener will be shared in all thread groups. Let me open existing JMeter file to discuss about the configurations of thread group. I will open this test scenario.jmx file. After adding thread group in test plan, now let's discuss its configurations. First we have name. You can give any name. It could be any test case or test scenario name. You can put comments here related to this thread group. Here we have thread properties, number of users or number of threads. You can mention number of users here. For how many users the scenario will be performed. For now, we have specified one number of threads or users. So let's see what is the result. It's failing. Let's correct it first. So the script is executed for one time only, means for one user. Now let's try by increasing the number of threads or number of users to 3. Let's see the results. This time the script is executed 3 times. Similarly, you can increase the count here up to 10,000, 20,000, whatever the requirements are. Next, we have ramp up period in seconds. The ramp up period is basically the gap between execution of threads. Here we have 3 threads. So between the execution of these 3 threads, this is the time taken by JMeter to start execution. So for example, if I give ramp up period as 10 and number of threads as 2, Let's see the results. First thread is completed. Now it is taking 10 seconds of pause, and after that it is executing second thread. Let's see again. Here we have 10 seconds of pause. Now second thread is executed. So you can increase or decrease the ramp up period time as per your requirements. In fact, if we add number of threads as 10 and we have added the ramp up period as 10, then it will take 1 second before each thread. It will divide the ramp up time between all threads. The ramp up period is the total gap between all the threads. Let's see how. Now the delay between the threads is reduced. Earlier it was 10 seconds, now it is 1 second. Because this 10 seconds is divided between 10 threads. Next we have loop count. So loop count is the number of iterations for each user or thread. For example, you specify the number of users as 1 and thread count is 2. So this user will be performed twice. Let's see how. So same thread is executed twice. Similarly, if you increase the number of threads to 2, now the execution will be done 4 times. Basically, this loop count is the number of iterations for each individual thread. If you set the loop count as infinite, then your test script will be executed non-stop without any time limitation. Let's see how. This is the infinite execution. These two threads are executing infinitely. There is no time limit. You can set the time limit using this option, specify thread lifetime. Under thread lifetime, we have option of duration in seconds. After the specified number of seconds here, the execution will stop. For example, if we specify duration as 20 seconds, then the execution will stop automatically after 20 seconds. So the script will be executed continuously for 20 seconds, and after 20 seconds, it will automatically stop. Now it's completed. So in this execution, we have used all these parameters like number of threads as 2 with ramp up period as 1 with infinite loop count but with duration of 20 seconds. Now we have startup delay. So the startup delay is the time taken before starting the execution. The ramp up period was the time between the threads, but the startup delay is the time taken before starting the first thread. Let's see how. Let's suppose we set the value as 10. Now, before starting the execution, it will take 10 seconds of delay. Now after 10 seconds, it will start execution. It will execute up to 20 seconds of duration. Next we have same user on each iteration. When first thread will be executed, then the cookies or cache will be saved automatically from the response, and same will be used for further thread executions. Next we have delay thread creation until needed. If you don't select this option, then all the required resources like memory or any data allocated to all threads at the start of execution. This will not impact much if you have small number of threads like 10 or 20. But in case of 10,000 or 20,000 threads, then it will take time to create 20,000 threads at a time before starting the execution. In that case, it would be good if you select this option, delay thread creation until needed. Means when there will be requirement of thread execution, before that all resources will be allocated automatically. Next we have action to be taken after a sampler error. This script basically is a sampler. So if at any step the execution fails, so here are few actions that will be automatically performed on failure. First is continue. When an error occurs, then instead of stopping the execution, it will continue running the same thread, and this is the default action. Let's fail the script first. Now let's see. So here you see the execution fails here, but it continued to perform logout and further steps. Next is start next thread loop. If you select this option, then that iteration will be stopped and it will start executing the next iteration of that same thread. Let's increase the number of iterations for thread. Now you see here the iteration stopped there and continue the next iteration. But the next steps are not performed, logout and successful logout. Next we have stop thread. If you choose this option, stop thread, then in case of any error, all the iterations will be stopped for that particular thread. So in this case, these two iterations were performed for these two threads. But in this step, only one iteration will be performed. If the failure appear at one iteration, the other iteration will not be performed for this step. In previous step, that was start next thread loop, the script was executed 4 times, but in this step, the script will be executed only twice. Let's see. See, the execution stops. Next, we have stop test. In case of error, it will stop the whole test, including all threads, but the current execution in which error occur will be completed. Means that thread will be completed, but the rest of the threads will be stopped. But on the other hand, if we select stop test now, then it forcefully stops the whole execution at that time. Even current thread will be stopped as well. So this was all about thread group. If you have any doubts, you can write in comment section. Thank you so much.